there anything she wants to do while you're in?
No, no, hey, no, 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 hey, no, no, hey, hey, no, hey, no, no, hey, no, no, hey, no, no, hey, hey,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Two Beers Deep Thoughts on the Bench. We have also hour-long show tonight, Greg. Keeping an hour.
I expect nothing less. Listen, and hear me out too. I'm glad because one, I need to watch New Rockstars. Two, I need to watch Hot Ones, and three, I need to go to bed early tonight anyway, so it works out for me.
Well, I guess I'll start by saying, so we have a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. We'll talk a little baseball, talk a little football, and then spend a lot of time on Agatha, which is great.
Yes.
Did you see, though, that so normally I finish the video and then I go and I just look on YouTube because either Screen Rants or somebody will have a video up. And, it's never as good or as in-depth like New Rockstars is the king of Marvel YouTube content. It's never there. It's never as good. But I did notice that New Rockstars now puts up a reaction video. So they have Eric Voss. I forget her name. I think it's Jessica.
Oh, Jessica something. I know what you're talking about. She's cool though.
Yeah, she's very cool. Her one-off videos, I still have not sought out or been as active about. But anytime she's on there with Eric, I'm very happy about it. She's very good.
Yeah, she did the Easter egg recaps during She-Hulk. So that's how I got used to her work and stuff. I thought she was
when he had a baby.
Yes, she did. So cool. I think she's just as good as Voss. I think Voss has a little bit more charisma, honestly, but that's personal.
Just as good. He is our sweet prince.
He is our sweet prince. Yes.
He's the Scott
I'm just
saying. But so they did a reaction where they showed their live reaction watching the episode and then sat there after and talked. And the interesting thing I thought about, so they don't really get into too much on the afterwards, but they do talk about calling out and stuff. And I think what I kind of realized is, so they're aware that they're losing shares by not being first, but they're also aware that anybody that puts out the video first is not going to be as accurate as their videos. So it seems like their solution is to do these reaction and quick first thoughts before we dive in videos, which I think are genius.
Yeah, I think it's smart because, again, the quality of New Rockstars is always there. And it's not just Marvel. It's they do Star Wars, they do DC, they do every other nerdom type thing you can think of, and they knock it out of the park. But I do believe that there is kind of something to be said for being the first to react, because usually when that's the case, it's the initial opinion that everything's going to be out there. It's kind of like how I try to wean off of Rotten Tomatoes if I'm interested in seeing how a movie does, and I only focus on sites that I know kind of specialize in that field. Anytime I want to see a comic book movie, I immediately go to IGN.
Yeah.
Because I know because they know their shit, and it's going to be probably a lot different than anyone that just covers movies in general and stuff. So I get it. I think it's knowing the audience, but then also realizing okay, there's something to be said about an instant reaction to at least set the tone for what everyone's going to think moving forward.
Agreed. All right, let's start the show up. We'll talk a little baseball first, Greg. As I mentioned, I'm going to get beers after, so I did not buy beer tonight. So you are, wow, I ruined everything. You are the Solo Dolo Cracker. You are Cracker.
You want to give me a countdown, or
you are
want to give me a countdown, or do you? All right, cool.
3, 2, 1, action. What are you drinking, Greggy?
I got me a Britsburg ale from East End Brewing Company. That's cool. Yes. Love the Union Jacket on that with the right Pittsburgh colors right there. Can't go wrong with that.
What kind of beer is it?
It's an English IPA.
Oh, how is it?
which I've had before. It's been a long time since I've had this beer because I remember like when Pittsburgh Beer Week was used to be a thing. Like this was like on tap at Piper's all the time. But like I haven't had it in a while, and I forgot because I thought it was more of a brown ale, obviously. But when I
Mm-hmm.
realized it was an IPA, I got really excited, so I bought it, and it's good. It's exactly what you expect from an IPA, but it has like a weird, let me not weird, but it's got like kind of like that malty like taste at the end of it that you'd expect from an English beer. That's still really
Yeah.
good.
Nice. All right, let's get into a
Hmm.
little baseball here. So we have one team in the NLCS, still series across the board here. We can start with the Mets Phillies there. Seemed like a good
Hmm.
series. Mets come out 3-1 winning. Uh, I had a lot of people telling me that this was Phillies' year, and I think they meet a team who is the sixth seed, but whose year it actually is.
I think that baseball and hockey are exactly the same playoff structure in an aspect where the best team is always probably not going to end up winning it in the end.
Yeah.
It's always momentum and it's always the hottest team that somehow finds a way to get in. If you remember last year, it was the Diamondbacks and the Rangers in the
Yep.
World Series. And those were teams no one expected to get there and stuff, where you had powerhouses like the Yankees, like the Braves, like the Phillies, like in that run as well. And it just momentum is a scary and dangerous thing, man. The Mets were god awful in April and May, and then just had this unbelievable turnaround that they've just
Yep.
been riding this wave of momentum into the playoffs, and they've ridden it with a phenomenal offense.
Yeah.
Offense has apparently been was the thing for the Mets because they Francisco Lindor was like
Big
if it
bat.
wasn't for Shohei Ohtani, like he would win NL MVP this year.
Yeah.
Lindor's been a stud all year. Pete Alonso just is going to get paid this offseason
Yeah.
because of how well he's producing in that lineup. So I just I look at that Mets lineup and everything about it is just clicking at the right time. And what's scary about them too, their pitching is not that deep.
Yeah.
They have a very their closer's been shaky all year. The bullpen isn't necessarily is still good, but it's not an elite bullpen that you expect from teams in the postseason. So I think that's what makes this team so unique in that aspect. That like offense is riding them into the situation. And for the Phillies, you're right, man. Like that
Hmm.
lineup is it. I would argue 1 through 9. It's probably the best lineup in
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah. I'd
It,
agree with
it
that.
it's a really good lineup. And Zach Wheeler is an ace, by the
Yeah.
way. Like and it's just it is unbelievable to see that Phillies team, and that actually had a very good rotation this year. That just crashed and burned in the playoffs to see that happen. It sucks, but I mean that's the playoff format that they go with, so you
Yeah.
can't really go off against it. But it would be very funny. I don't want to call it funny. I would kind of find it humorous that you could essentially see Bryce Harper never win a ring as a Philly.
Yeah. It's man. So Bryce Harper's always in the conversation about is he one of those guys that lived up to the hype? And I think yes. He's an
Oh, I
insanely
agree.
good ball player. He's always perpetually one of the best players in the league, and I think he's been worth every penny Philly paid him.
Hmm.
Back to what you were saying about the Mets. Yeah, their roster to me is such a. It's funny because this year it feels like the roster for the Mets is that no name team. Excuse me, that kind of no name team with some guys, but like you said, like normally these teams have a big name pitcher or like a ton of really good guys, and I feel like they are just hot, which is weird considering the Mets have always spent like the most money in baseball. Um, but
Which
the
I
other,
did want to point that out too, which
yeah,
is fascinating that the two teams that were probably the most notorious the past couple of years for spending just a fuck ton of money and then just crashing and burning, the Mets and the Padres. Both of those teams are probably the hottest teams in baseball right now, outside of maybe the Detroit Tigers.
yeah,
But those two teams are probably the hottest teams in baseball right now. They spent a ton of money 2 years ago, crashed and burned in both instances, went on a fire sale in both instances, and now they're back to essentially contending. It goes
yeah,
to show you like how crazy it is like in baseball where you don't just throw money at the problem, like you
yeah.
there needs to be a plan involved. And credit to Steve Cohen, the new owner of the Mets, who realized that he can't win a ring with by money. He needs to able to develop a team to be able to go it, and it's working.
I think genuinely we could move right over to Padres Dodgers, and between you and I, Greg, I couldn't have even told you who was in the ALDS. Like, I know the Yankees are
Mm-hmm.
top dog. I did not know it was Tigers, Cleveland, and I did not know the Yankees were playing Kansas City because I haven't heard
Mm-hmm.
shit about those series because Mets, Phillies, and Padres Dodgers were so big.
Yeah, and also it's funny too because those games are on TBS right now, so like I've kind of seen them and guessing it. But yeah, in terms of the national spotlight, it's been the NLCS because I think it's because the Mets were so hot coming in that they got the attention, and then also it's Padres Dodgers because while the Dodgers won the division, the Padres owned them this year.
Yeah.
Like I think the Padres were 7-2 in the regular season, and they are their kryptonite. And the Padres are another team that just got extremely hot at the All Star
Yep.
break and have really come on strong for them. And the scary thing about the Padres is that the Padres not only have a damn good lineup to work with,
Yep.
their bullpen is filthy.
Yeah, they have
They
the bullpen
they
you would expect a team right now to have.
yes. My dad has gone on record numerous times saying that pitching wins you championships. If the Padres get to the NLCS, I think they'll beat the Mets.
Yeah, I could
I really do.
stand by that. I mean, they have still Machado. They have Tatis Jr., who, like, Tatis crazy. Yeah, this is a team of guys who I've actually heard of, is how I'd word their pitching staff.
Yeah.
The fun thing here, though, is I love that it's that rivalry. I love that it's Dodgers, Padres, and I love the thought of Shohei being up against the Mets and, like, Shohei going on to the World Series, but I would much rather see the Padres win this, I think. Like, I hate the Dodgers.
Is it the underdog mentality, or is it just because or is there a different like reasoning for it by chance?
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple things. One, I like the fact that they're doing this without Juan Soto.
Okay.
I think that
Okay.
they had like the craziest three team, like Machado, Tatis, and Soto together. I was like, well, this is insane, and it didn't work. But it proved
Right.
that it wasn't. And I'm not saying that they're winning because they don't have Juan Soto, but I'm saying it proved that that experiment wasn't a complete failure. And like,
Right.
what they're doing is working, and I think they're cool. I think they got swagger. And the other side of it is I'm just sick of the Dodgers. I mean, they're just perpetually amazing. It's just so disturbingly money. I mean, they have the money.
Well, the Dodgers are also in the same boat as the Phillies, where they've underachieved every time they've gotten to the
100%.
playoffs too. I think the last time I remember the Dodgers winning the World Series was in the COVID year, and even then, like I could arguably put an asterisk at
Yeah,
that as
because
well.
Big Red didn't wear a mask out on the field.
Yeah, so it's just I'm with you with the Dodgers. I find it fascinating too that both Mookie and Shohei are struggling, but then again, I just pointed to the fact that they're going against a Dodger team that has a very good bullpen and a solid pitching staff to be able to work with. So I just would love it for the Padres. I would also love it for San Diego just for the fact that they've lost like the Chargers recently and stuff. So like that entire city is just rallying around them now, which is just awesome to see. And hear me out too. Fernando Tatis is like still to me a star. He still has that swagger that you
100%.
want
He's
for a
so
guy to be a
sick.
face of baseball. He is, and he is, and also like, and also Jackson Merrill, their center fielder, who has just like been incredible since he got brought up and stuff like that. I think he has 8 game-winning hits in the regular season, 5 of them home runs. Like this dude's gonna be a stud moving forward, and he's a rookie too. There was arguments coming into this year that he was a better rookie than Paul Skeens.
Really?
Yes, especially how well Merrill finished and the fact that the Padres got into the playoffs. Like there are people arguing that he's the rookie of the year for the NL. It's not going to happen, but it's an interesting case.
I was going to say they're wrong, but that's cool that they're at least discussing.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I mean, if I'm going to sit here and pick, I would assume it's going to be Padres, Mets. For me, it would be Padres in the World Series. The other side, I do think, I don't really care who wins out of Cleveland, Detroit. So let's pick Cleveland to come back just to help Bueno feel good at night. And then Yankees, with the Yankees going to the World Series. I would love, though, to see a Subway Series World Series.
Really? Did you ever? You weren't watching baseball back in like 2000 when they last had it, did you?
No, I did not see baseball when 9/11 was going on.
Okay, so that was a wild atmosphere. I remember. I think I was 8 watching that World Series, and I remember the scene where Mike Piazza broke a bat off of Roger Clemens' fastball, and Roger Clemens threw the broken barrel back at Piazza as he was going to first base.
Yeah.
Like that was a scene, and that's like 2000 New York, where that hatred is very real.
Yeah.
So I would love to see it, especially in 25, almost 25 years later and stuff. That'd be so much fun. And I'm so fascinated by the ALDS in this sense, because first of all, the Tigers are another team that has come up out of nowhere, and like the Tigers essentially went on a fire sale during this trade deadline and are the youngest team in baseball right now. Should not be here. And the Guardians are a team that have been consistently good all year and stuff, but their pitching for some reason has just fallen flat in the postseason so far. Also, the Tigers have probably the AL Cy Young winner in Tarik Skubal, so he's going to be a
Never heard of that
strong
cat in my
candidate for
life.
them, and will probably, if they win today, he'll start Game 1 in the ALCS. But in the other one, Royals and Yankees, there's so much pressure on the Yankees to win. And first off, Jazz Chisholm didn't do him any favors by guaranteeing a win. I respect it, but still, like if Judge has been struggling most of the postseason, Giancarlo Stanton finally just showed up. Your rotation is like hanging on by a thread. You got Garrett Cole starting tonight, who really needs a bounce back in the worst way, and your
Yeah.
bullpen doesn't necessarily scare anyone. The Yankees don't really have any room to be talking right now, especially when you're going against the Royals, who have a solid young core, and Bobby Witt Jr., who's a top 5 player in baseball right now, in my opinion. So
Feel good about that. Switching lanes a little bit here. I don't want to get too much into it just because I did not actually watch it. But yeah, the Pens, man, they suck, huh?
it was ugly.
Well,
It was
and I was
ugly.
talking to a buddy at work who loves hockey, and his thing was
Uh,
hang your head high. The Rangers are just good. But I think that the key things I want to bring up here are we're too fucking old. We have nobody I'm looking forward to. And how the fuck is Jari still our goalie?
Uh, you know what's funny? Like I completely forgot that Jari basically like crashed and burned at the end of last season, and when I saw that he was still in net, I didn't even think anything of it until I'm reading. I think I was reading DK Pittsburgh Sports this morning, and I was reminded that oh yeah, he didn't like finish off the last half the season, which is probably not good for his confidence. But then I realized Nedeljkovic is on IR to start the year. I think he'll be back in like a couple weeks or something, and they got a rookie goaltender behind him in
Yep.
Yoel Blomqvist, who I think is starting tonight in Detroit. So that'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, man, like team is still old. They
That's
they
fucked.
tried getting some younger guys like to be able to like battle for spots and stuff to help, and they're just not gelling just yet. The only solace that I will take is that again, it's one game. You're going up against a very good Ranger team, and this isn't the and like last couple years too. I'm pretty sure the Pens won their openers, and it didn't work out well for them in the end. So it's not how you start; it's how you finish.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's what I'm going to hang my hat on in this sense.
And that's where I'm going to say we move on from hockey.
And that was hockey talk. Yep.
That was hockey talk. I want to talk about these quarterbacks still, man. We kind of talked a little bit about it last week. We talked about we did a full kind of first round mock, which I thought was good. It crashed at the 8 o'clock mark. I want to talk, so I'm going to pull up basically projected 2025 draft order, and we sit here. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we do that, I just need to ask, because since you are in
Yeah.
ground zero of what happened this past weekend, what is the city like right now after that incredible event that occurred Saturday
So
night?
they have elevated, per A to Z Sports Nashville, they have elevated Trevor Siemian to the actual roster. They have stated Will Levis is their quarterback. Now, here's the thing. Half the city is saying Mason just handed the ball off. Like, yeah, Will's not great, but, like, Mason wasn't out there throwing, like, dimes. Like, all this stuff to basically be like, look, we know we suck. Let's just play Will and see, because he's shown glimpses of being the guy. The other half of the city is just like, dude, Will Levis is losing us games. Mason Rudolph can manage this offense, and he threw balls into people's hands, and Will Levis is not doing that. So it's interesting. Nobody's really pounding the table one way or another. Everyone has been very much like, you either A, think that you're like, everybody thinks quarterback play sucks, and you either A,
Right.
think you have the upside of Will Levis, or B, you think maybe, just maybe, I have the ability to run an offense with Mason Rudolph that would allow certain people to get open, that would allow our running backs to have a little fun. It's interesting, man. It's one of those things where you kind of sit there, and me, I'm like, start Mason, because he won the game, and he went in and did well. But Will Levis is, their guy and their quarterback, so it's interesting.
Isn't this also kind of like preaching to the choir about the logic that there is nothing wrong with having like rookie or second year quarterbacks maybe not play right away because they're clearly not ready?
Yeah, but what would they have done? Would they have kept Tannehill, I guess, like, I don't really know.
I don't know, but I mean, like, but first off, like Levis is a second round pick, so like I'm not
Yeah.
saying that like they had him as the guy necessarily. Like there was definitely still some like flags about him. He was probably still raw to begin with, but like I don't think anyone looked him as like the franchise savior coming into this year yet. I think people saw the talent, but
Oh
I don't
no,
think
this was their franchise savior, Buckaroo.
really.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
okay, but man, I just feel like there's nothing wrong with just like not letting him play if he's clearly not ready. And I don't think anything he's done has proven that he is clearly ready to handle the franchise
I
reins
mean,
yet.
he
Unless
did
I'm,
really well last year. Like we can't.
Mhm.
He really did look like a guy that could be their starting quarterback for years to come.
Yeah,
And he's, second round guy, don't gotta pay him, like we'll see what happens, blah blah blah. He looked like their franchise quarterback, so everyone assumed he would. And coming in this year, they upgrade the offense. You lose Derrick Henry, but you're bringing in Calvin. You have D Hop again. You really are thinking that you have something special, so it's kind of deflating, is how I'd word it.
that's fair. I mean, he's definitely in a better situation than a lot of other younger quarterbacks are. I'll give him that. But it is kind of telling that you look at other quarterbacks that are thriving with maybe less talent, it does kind of show you like there is definitely like a mindset mentality that's clearly different compared to Levis versus other guys. But again, I don't think it's necessarily right to give up on the guy just yet. It's only his second year. I think that's a little bit of a fool's errand. And also, you have
Yeah.
a full year to evaluate how good someone's going to be before you decide to hang your hat on that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think they start Levis. I think if Levis is healthy, and I mean, he's also made just terrible plays recently, like
Mm-hmm.
underhand chuck plays that make no sense that are costing them games. Is kind of the other side
Right.
of it.
He's trying to force a play and make a play happen, and
Yeah, it's just not there, man.
it's just not working.
No, it's just not there in any way, shape, or form. But
Mm.
not my quarterback.
Yeah.
So, um,
Who is your quarterback? Just out of curiosity.
my quarterback right now is Justin Fields, man. It's interesting because they very contentious around the league. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had a franchise quarterback. Last week we're all sitting here, thinking, all right, it was just one game. This week we're sitting here saying 2 losses. And me personally, I don't know where I stand because for me, Russ was named the starter at the beginning of the year. Justin
Right.
Fields has looked good, but I will admit I am now leaning towards the camp that our coaching mindset is too old. It's the same reason that
Okay.
I told you guys when we hired Arthur Smith, I was contemplating taking a year off. Reason being that his offense is old. It's
Mm-hmm.
run heavy. It's not what we need. And
Yeah.
Tomlin, I think the most telling thing is Tomlin hasn't had a single uh, offense coordinator, defense coordinator go on to any other team and have success. Todd Haley's the only one really that's left in this time. And he's never had a
Not
coordinator
saying much.
move up into a role and have massive success. He doesn't have any form of a coaching tree or anything. And I do think I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to believe he is a player's coach that won't allow other people to have a say in what happens. And I do think we are now, I mean, it's proven, but we're perpetually in the state of what are we doing? And so for me, I'm now getting closer to the camp of I want a new head coach, which is brand new. I'm not there yet.
Wow. Okay.
I'll give it after next season. If I see the same shit, I'll give it the rest of this year because we have two new quarterbacks, and I'll give it next year
Mm-hmm.
because next year we should have one of these guys as our franchise. If it's not
Right.
fixed after that, I think it has to happen. And I think Tomlin retires, and I think we get a new head coach. But we got to go younger. We got to go better because it doesn't matter who we have in at quarterback. Our play calling is
Mm.
atrocious. We're not doing anything we're not scheming guys open. We're basically saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, run a route and we'll see what happens. And our run game, we have too good of an offensive line, even with these injuries, for our run game to be this bad. So, long answer to just say it doesn't matter who our quarterback is. We have a bad coordinator problem.
Yeah. I look at that offense in general, and I'm just kind of like I'm piecing everything together because obviously only having one real receiver is not good. Now I can make excuses by saying, well, yeah, we haven't seen what Roman Wilson will look like in this offense because
Yep.
he's been hurt, which I still can't figure out how the hell he's been out for 3 months with a sprained ankle, by the way. That I can't figure that out, but that's beside the point. Um, I'm curious. It's fascinating to see how much struggling Najee Harris is when Jalen Warren is not there, which is very telling.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, it's very telling like how important Jalen Warren is to that offense. Now that I
I
think
agree with
about
that.
it, um, nothing wrong with the tight ends, nothing wrong with the offensive line, especially because of how young they are. So like I'm willing to give them a pass on that one. But yeah, man, I'm not knocking Justin Fields for the loss against the Colts, first off, because they damn near could have won that game if it wasn't for a bad snap, which I can't figure out why there's been miscommunication with him and Zach Frazier this year.
I mean,
It's
it hasn't
weird to
been
see.
terrible, but I
It
chalk
hasn't, but
like
like
the
it's been
first snap,
glaring.
and yeah, I don't know that last snap. It's yeah, I don't know. I still think Zach Frazier is our center of the future. I think it was your center for a
Oh, for
long
sure.
time, so I have no
Oh, for sure. He's the
concerns
best center
there.
we've had since Pouncey, and it's
Yeah,
not even close. Not
yeah.
even close. So I'm not worried about that necessarily. It's just like that was weird. But the Cowboy game, the Cowboy game is telling to me a little bit because like Justin Fields in that loss to the Colts, like Fields
Yeah,
like made plays to get us back into that
I'd
game and
agree with
like put
that.
up the number and stuff.
I would
The
agree with that.
Cowboys game was fascinating. I don't know how much of it I want to bank on the fact that it was late, it was like muddy conditions and stuff like that. I don't necessarily want to blame the defense too much because you held the Cowboys to 20 points. So like I think that realistically should have been enough, but then again on a fourth and goal like you need to stop.
Yeah,
So like I don't know, like I think it's hard to really justify how good a team truly is going to be after 5 games. I think
yeah.
it's going to be better to get an understanding halfway through the season to like get a full picture, at least to kind of figure out how what's going to happen. But you see, but that hearing you talk about like maybe wanting to pass on Tomlin in a couple of years is telling because you have been
I,
a defender of
I've
him
been
for
as
the longest
stout as
time,
I could be, man. And
as stout
when
as
you're
you could
looking
be.
at
Yeah.
it, it's like he has no coordinators that have ever made me go, "Oh, thank God." The only thing as a Steelers fan that's only ever given me hope was the Killer Bees. Like I haven't
Mm-hmm.
really felt like I loved Duck. He was fun, but there was nothing there. We have wasted away a defense that is elite. We have not
Mm-hmm.
sniffed a quality quarterback since Ben retired, respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's fair.
we have basically stayed safe, and we've accepted the fact that we're in limbo. And I think that for the longest time I sat there and said, um, the Patriots made it look so easy, and the Chiefs are making it look so easy that like Steelers fans are just stupid because we're like
Mm-hmm.
we should be in the Super Bowl every year, and maybe we should, but there's also franchises like the Panthers who will never make it again,
Right.
and so
Again.
we
Yeah.
got to be lucky that like we are who we are, and lucky that we win games and stuff. But also, I almost would rather us lose games so we can get some better players in the draft than this situation. Now they've taken swings and they've done good things. They brought in Minka. They tried, drafting Bush. We thought maybe we had it with Kenny. I don't hate it. It's just, we fail when it comes to preparing our team for Sundays.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of what the Pens did. The Pens mortgaged the
Yeah.
future for those 2 cups, and then tried mortgaging multiple other times that ended up in first round playoff losses, and then it ended up costing us young players that we could use to help replenish this core. And now it's way too late that they're finally trying to do this. So I get what you're saying. Like you want to be able to like get younger pieces in, but is the I'm curious though about the concept of the coaching tree that you have the issue with, and I get it. Like
Go
it's
for it.
not, and I get it because it's very telling for the record. But is the coaching tree aspect a bit overrated? Because like you have seen multiple times where Belichick's assistants like crash and
But
burn
they've
whenever they
gotten
try to get
jobs.
fair,
Like
but they've never. I can't
they've
name you
never
what's
succeeded.
the
Brian Flores.
well. Okay, Brian Flores, I'll give you
Jared
that. But like
Mayo
one in
is the head coach right now. Josh McDaniels. You have Matt Patricia, which could both be labeled as failures, which is totally fine. But you have
mhm.
guys trying.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Let's see, because Belichick.
Because here's the thing, like I won't even try to like argue the Andy Reid coaching tree because you are a big
Yeah,
proponent of that.
it's amazing.
There's great ones right there. Like the Shanahan coaching tree is
It's
probably one of the
amazing.
best ones as well. Yeah, it's amazing. So that's telling, but is the coaching tree talk kind of
So
overrated? And also,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
would point out is where Tomlin is probably a disciple of the Tony Dungy coaching tree.
100%.
Yeah.
So Al Groh went 9-7. Nick Saban won 15-17. Romeo Crennel, 32 and 63 ass. Eric Mangini 33-47. Josh McDaniels 20-33. Bill O'Brien 52-48. Matt Patricia 13-29. Brian Flores 24-25, who's now leading the number one defense in the NFL. Joe Judge and then Brian Dabble. So, and it's not even like, okay, so let's say they're all failures, right? He's still producing guys who are getting jobs elsewhere and refilling those holes on his team with new ideas and new thoughts and new people. That's where it's at. It's like, I like Tomlin the guy. I think Mike Tomlin would be a better front office GM type guy where you bring him in to control the team and he's there for...
Oh, could you imagine him as at a presser as a general manager giving these half answers and stuff? It'd be incredible.
Awesome. It's just, for me, when it comes down to actual game plan, we run a prehistoric offense and defensive scheme that does not, benefit Justin Fields' running ability. It doesn't benefit Darnell Washington being 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that. It doesn't benefit Najee Harris looking like he pulls Santa's sleigh out there. This doesn't do anything for me. All we do is play defense really fucking well, and we do that because we have really fucking good players.
Yeah, and also, like, the first 3 games that they won, they definitely, like, there was the recipe was time of possession.
Yep.
So
which looked
I think
immaculate. So I will give Arthur Smith his roses there.
It did, yeah, especially because Matt Canada didn't understand that concept. So I think the recipe is still there. I'm willing to also say too that these last 2 games gave very telling signs of the struggle. There is, number one, you can't let a team like the Colts just go off on you early and force them to have to make a comeback, because the Steelers are not a team that I don't think they can play from behind. They might be able to, and Justin Fields almost came back, but I just think they're a better team that when they score early and then just hold you to it. And then the second one is the Cowboy game I think that was just a bad game in general. When you only have 133 passing yards from Justin Fields, that's an issue, and that's also telling from the perspective that we really need another pass catcher on this team in the worst way.
All right, let's get to Agatha, Greg. Spoilers this point on. We have about 29 minutes left in the show, and we're going to talk about Disney Plus's Agatha All Along. Let's go through 2 things. One, you beat me to watching it for the first time.
I know. I lucked out because I lucked out because normally I watch AEW on Wednesdays, but they had their show on Tuesday, so I was free on Wednesday to watch it live. So when I watched it live, it was pretty cool. I'd say be able to do that and be like, oh, this is what it's like to get ahead of the curve. Okay, so yeah, I got that.
Second, I want to hear what you're thinking in terms of this episode. Start to finish, and your text shit just got real. I'm curious at what point of the show you sent that.
Oh, that was the very end.
Got it.
The very end. I sent that to you. Yeah. So when you sent the text to me this morning about how saying that was one of the best episodes in Marvel television
100%.
history. Okay. I did some train of thought on that. And I was thinking about it, and because I'm recalling watching the episode from the previous night, and and obviously we'll get into the reasoning you're saying that obviously, but that episode as a whole, I had to think about it, and I feel like there was a lot of stuff that was rushed at the beginning, that kind of make it kind of hard for me to say that overall how great of an episode it was. I think, here's what I will say. I think that was one of the top 5 best Marvel moments on Marvel television.
Okay. I know
but the best episode, though, I think is tough to pull simply because if we're starting it from the beginning,
sure, I
think they really rushed the whole concept of what the Salem 7 is. To me,
yes, I will give you that at the beginning of the show. Yes, I'll give you that.
I didn't appreciate that because we're introduced to these scary characters in the second episode, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn more about them, and then it's just an offhand comment about how they're the siblings of the witches that Agatha killed when she took their powers and stuff, and now they're coming back from revenge, and it's okay, I can't get a backstory. I can't get anything about who they are. I can't get about
I would guarantee there's going to be more, but I also understand.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I was kind of put off a little bit by like how quick that was, because like essentially, like while Agatha is technically like, and we forget about this too. This is part of the reason I love the show so much, is like Agatha is such a great character that we forget she's technically a villain.
Yes.
She is technically the villain of this show when you think about it,
Yep.
in the grand scheme of things. But yet at the same time, like if she's the main character, they're supposed to be the main nemesis when you think about it. And we're just like, and they're kind of like pushed to the side almost to a degree. Although you could still make a case that maybe Aubrey Plaza's character Rio is the main villain, but I don't know. So that's the part that kind of like threw me off a little bit. I like the unique 80s aesthetic for the trial.
Yep.
I didn't quite. I like that Agatha had a trial, because I was curious how they were going to do that, because I assumed obviously that it was just going to be the four witches had their own trials, and then like the last one would be like all of them together doing it. I didn't think
Agreed.
Agatha was going to have her own trial. So, but I do wish there was kind of like more explanation about the blood moon and like what kind of witch Agatha is,
Yeah,
I
I'll give you
guess. Yeah, so like I didn't care for that too much. Uh Aside from that though, I mean like everything else was still pretty good. I mean like I was not expecting that death to occur, for one. I think
Yeah.
that was a little rushed.
So, yes, and to address everything, this episode was fast. I personally
was.
didn't feel rushed, but I felt it was fast.
It was
and I
it was
felt
the 32-minute episode, which was weird when I
So-
saw it original.
It starts off with the Salem 7. It's terrifying. Crawling on the ground, looking around, saying Agatha,
Yep.
clearly on the witch's rose, and then Lila, whatever, I forget her name, Lydia, Lyria, she wakes up, and that's a vision of hers, is that they're coming. And so then instantly I thought Agatha's not there, but then she runs over, whatever. So they're getting chased. I loved the broom scene. I loved Audrey
I loved
Plaza's character laughing. I love the broom spell, but that brings up one of the things that I texted you. So here's my question. A coven, if it's this number, so Aubrey Plaza, it's gonna be old lady, black lady, Asian lady, I can't remember their names, and
It's
Agatha.
fine, that's fine. Yeah.
Those are the 5 witches of a coven, right?
Yes.
Which,
yes.
fun fact, they all match the Infinity Stones colors.
Ooh.
Yes. So, just
I
so
didn't
you know.
realize that. That's
Purple's
pretty cool.
power,
Okay.
which is Agatha. Green is time, which is death. You know, anyway, so.
Yeah. Damn, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah, it's
continue.
cool. But the
Yeah.
other issue I have with all this is, so I asked that question, and then the obvious answer is they're not supposed to fly. Because my first thing was, well, how are they going to fly if there's an odd number and you have to swap brooms? The point is they're not supposed to fly. So I answered my own question on that one. The next
That was,
one
yeah.
was, does the Salem 7 not have to do trials?
No, because technically they're not trying to get to the end of the Witch's Road. They're trying to get to Agatha.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's not
Which
so
makes
they're not
sense.
like they're not on the road trying to complete the trial. They're trying to like just get after like a witch.
So combined that, let's go to notes. I said the Salem 7 with the trials, and answer that one. Yep, odd numbers, answer that one. My next note, it would be so much cooler if the daughters of the people, not counting Agatha, obviously, if the daughters of the coven Agatha tried to bring their moms back and created a zombie coven. Because you have to understand the Salem 7 are not what they are in the comics. So they made up this
Right.
Salem 7. This is a made-up thing.
Yes.
In my mind, it would have been way cooler. Because the fact that they just left the 7, or left the daughters alone, and they became this hive mind, creepy, crawly thing, it made
And
no
it was
sense.
the comment Agatha made was like, what was it? It was like lesson learned, finish what you
show
start.
no mercy. Yeah.
Show no mercy. Yeah.
But it's just like, so just daughters by themselves can turn into that? I don't know. That seems.
I would imagine it was probably like they all came together and like to seek out revenge. They probably like
My guess is dark
enacted-
magic.
enacted some sort of like ancient magic to be able to become like these evil entities and stuff like that. That also technically Rio probably is associated with because of the fact that she told the Salem Seven where Agatha was.
Yeah, could see that.
So I'm still
Uh,
curious about that connection.
the next one was, oh my God, it's Agatha's this early. I was
Yeah,
surprised we did Agatha's now. I assumed it was going to be the last one.
I assumed as well. Yeah, I thought it would be. I thought it would be the premonition lady would be the next one actually. So like I was very surprised that we got Agatha's.
Now, one note on New Rockstars is the Premonition Ladies is most likely going to be the Wizard of Oz one, where Agatha is
Yes.
clearly the Wicked Witch, which she is. But in all of those shots, it doesn't show Mrs. Hart or, and I need to learn their names, the Asian Witch.
Yeah, yeah.
So made
No,
sense.
I get that, and it made sense because like of how much like she always makes the comments about the tropes about witches, which she made the tropes during the bridge spell during the broom spell as well, which I thought was great.
So let's get into the actual trial itself. So they get in the house, they fly, they fall back down. Salem Seven's almost there. She turned into flies, which I thought was cool. But then they get into the house. I was so excited that it was a Ouija board. Like, so I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, you would think, especially for a spooky episode with witches and stuff like that, especially when
Blood
it's regard to the
moon.
death.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect, and that's also very. It feels very 80s esque too. To like contact with a Ouija board and
Yeah.
stuff, like it just feels that aesthetic, and I love that. I loved it too.
So then you get into, they read the rules for the Ouija board, which are the actual rules.
Hmm.
On the back, there's a funny note about it being a game for all, or ages 3 and up. And then they start doing the Ouija board, and it pulls out the name Mr. Shart, is how I first read it. Mrs. Hart, to which I think we got some of the greatest acting in Marvel history.
It was
As
dumb, but it was so good.
did you believe it?
Yeah, I did. I
100%,
did.
right?
Oh, I did too.
Because I
It was
wrote, "Oh
so
my
well
God,
done.
it's Mrs. Hart."
I thought it would have been really funny as well if that was like the spirit that they contacted. But yeah, I totally
But do you
thought
know
that
what was
that was the
interesting
possession.
about it? So
What?
they said it's Mrs. Hart, it's Mrs. Hart, and then Teen went, "That's not her name," and she goes, "That's right, my name's Sharon Davis," and it was like, so Agatha does know her name.
Well, that's why I thought it was real because like Agatha, I thought didn't know her name.
She
So
didn't.
like
I thought
that
she
was
just
like
didn't
the great.
care.
I did too. Yeah. So I thought that was a great connection. That's what made me believe it was her. So the fact that it wasn't, so
So
good.
they go back into the Ouija, which I remember I put in here. She just mocked the spirits. So one of the rules, you just mocked the spirits. Like,
Right.
so they're going around, and it turns out the next name. I loved when they were spelling Agatha because it said punish.
Hmm.
It said, "Who do you want to punish?" Agatha. Agatha rips her hands off, and
Hmm.
it is revealed that she is now possessed and leaves and comes back as the exorcist.
Yeah. And what's creepy about it is she's not just possessed by anyone. She's possessed by the spirit of her mother.
Yeah, so that comes out. She chokes one of the other witches, and sitting there, and a ghost comes down, and Agatha's like, "Good to see you, Mom." And it's her mom who wants her punished. I assumed the trial was going to be you don't leave a witch behind. Like, she said, you need to leave her to be punished, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we can leave her here to be punished. Like, we can do that."
Hmm.
I assumed that the trial in itself was that they needed to have a really kumbaya, come to Jesus moment about their friendship and everything.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I could have been more wrong.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. And by the way, something else that threw me off too. Were you also taken aback by how immediately defensive like Rio got about not wanting to leave Agatha with her mom?
Yes.
Like that threw me off a little bit about how
Well,
like there's clear connection there. Like Rio clearly like
she loves
also
Agatha
does
and knows Agatha can't be
right.
hurt or whatever it is. But the other side of it is, technically, a ghost cheats death.
It does. And it
So
also explains why Rio hates ghosts so much.
that's what I was thinking about. I was like, a ghost technically cheats death because the body's dead, but the ghost didn't go anywhere. So,
Right.
uh, so then we have a scene there where Teen runs over to the Ouija board and says, "Who is this?" And it comes out finally as the name Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's
Hmm.
son. 2 seconds on the clock. But while that's happening, The God, I need to learn the
The
Asian,
the the blood witch, yeah,
the
just
Blood Witch.
the
Thank
blood
you.
witch.
The Blood
Yeah.
Witch. She starts shooting possessed Agatha with her powers, to which the ghost leaves Agatha, and Agatha starts absorbing those powers.
Hmm.
Uh, you can very clearly see that there is no, you know, there's no ghost in her anymore. She's liking it.
No.
She's accepting the power. I had a theory where I thought the last trial was going to be Agatha's, and they were all going to have to shoot her with their powers, and she was going to have to absorb it to finish the trial and then give them back.
Hmm.
Turns out it's not true, because as Teen screams Nicholas Scratch, Agatha turns around, leaves a drained Blood Witch on the ground, and basically that is my son, and they win the trial, and you hear, "Mommy, please stop." Creepy.
Yeah, very creepy. I like. Did Agatha technically hear the son? Just out of
Yes. Oh
curiosity,
yeah.
like you did. Okay, got it. So okay, so like that moment was also like a like come to like
Snap.
moment for
Uh
her.
huh.
Yeah, but it also didn't give her any remorse whatsoever for what she did to the Blood Witch at all. She just left the Blood Witch there,
I thought she was going to give
essentially.
the power back. I was rooting for it. She goes outside. There's a treehouse that lets them go back out on the road. Teen comes out, confronts her, snips at her in there, saying, "Don't go near the Blood Witch," because Agatha tries to go near the Blood Witch. Says, "What are you doing? You know what you're doing." And Agatha goes from shameful, defensive, to smiling, to putting her hand on Teen's face and saying, "You are so much like your mother."
That was incredible acting by Catherine Hunt,
She's
I
amazing.
must say.
She's amazing.
That was incredible, incredible from that. And also, not just that as well, but the other two witches
Yeah.
come out as well and kind of reiterate the same thing that Agatha is in step with about this is all about power. No matter what you say or what you think it is, this is all in the end. This is all about this is all what we're here for. So that like just completely like just ruined Teen's picture of exactly
Of a
what this
coven.
journey was
Yeah.
about. Exactly.
So then, interesting. So I'm going to walk through basically how this happened. You see the other two witches walk towards Agatha, and you notice that they have blue in their eyes. And they grab Agatha, and it goes back to Teen, whose hands are blue. And I wrote here, "He's strong as fuck," with a question mark. And I'm confused. And they pick Agatha up, and they throw her off the road into a mud pit where she sinks in. And then Teen throws the other two witches off the road into the mud pit where they sink in. And then it cuts back to Teen, who is wearing the Scarlet Witch's crown. And the episode ends on Billie Eilish's "See Me in a Crown."
Which perfect choice for
Yeah,
music,
it
I
was
must
amazing.
say.
I
Perfect.
loved every second of it. I was like, "Oh my god, he's so strong." But I guess here's all of the questions we have at the end of this episode. Or if you die on the Witch's Road, are you actually dead? That's something I do want to know. 2, has Teen been hiding this power all along, or did this trigger an awakening? 3, if Teen is wearing the Scarlet Witch crown, which we can now call him Wiccan, if Wiccan is wearing the crown, does that officially confirm Wanda is dead? 4, is this Wanda's kid? Because if she goes, "You're just like your mother," his mom is Mrs. Kaplan, but the spirit of the child lives. I don't know. I'm very confused how they're going to figure that out. And 5, and most importantly, how are getting sunk into the mud getting you to the next trial? I'm very confused there. And 6, the thing that did kind of annoy me was that they never really talked about the Salem 7 again.
Yes, and with regards to the reveal, I loved it. I love that reveal so
Agreed.
much. And yes, based off of what we can determine, yes, he is Scarlet Witch's son, Billy Wiccan.
Yep.
But what I cannot, but my immediate reaction after seeing it, it's like I got super excited, but then immediately I was like, how the fuck does he exist?
Yes.
is my immediate question, because technically outside of the Doctor Strange movie,
Yep.
her kids were not real. They were figments of her imagination that she manifested from her grief of losing vision.
Yes.
So they're not real people, they're not real spirits at all. And the entire purpose of of the Doctor Strange sequel was her trying to find a universe where they existed,
Yep.
so she could have her perfect family. So to me, I'm wrapping my head around this, like trying to figure out like is it like the kid from the universe that did exist and grew up a little bit? I don't believe that necessarily because I can't figure out like how the universe is meshed in this case. But then I'm also trying to figure out like but then I'm figuring out like how in the world does this kid exist?
Mhm.
That's my question that I have for that. But no, I'm with you. I think it's somehow I think somehow the anger caused it to occur
Yep.
because if not, that was some that was some like real good pretend acting he was doing on the entire like road and stuff to be
Yeah.
able to bring that up. But then again, we are to believe that that Wiccan was the one that was able to snap Agatha out of her trance or something. It was either a combination of him or Rio, essentially, because
Yeah.
we know he was in her home. We know he was chanting a spell to kind of get her out of what was going on and stuff. And I also find it telling too that in that last scene we don't see Rio
At all.
at all. So
I
there
think
could be
she's
a
back there
connection
with
right
the
there.
ghost.
Yeah, like there's entirely like a connection we don't even know about in that sense. So this is what I love about the show is that each week there's something new that occurs that makes me excited for what's to come next. And
Yeah.
I'm asking myself, what next? That's how you know I'm hooked.
Yeah, I agree. It is like, all right, where'd it come from? For me, it's definitely going to be, they already mentioned Mephisto. It's going to be some version of, excuse me. Off. Get off. Get off. Off. Bitch. It's going to be some version of, okay, so let's talk about it. Hey, get off. Off, dude. Come on, dude. Off. Get off. God, dirty dog.
Trying to retrain him is just going to be so difficult.
Oh, it is, but it'll be fine. He's learning. Wanda was never able to, and this is kind of where I'm going to get lost a little bit because technically it is what they were. She's never able to create something new. The vision she makes is a replication of Vision. The people in there are all real people under a spell. The house, sure. Stuff, sure. She never really invented a person that wasn't existing.
Okay.
My guess, shot in the dark, she pulled two kids from their timeline. In the other universe in Doctor Strange that she went to, that universe, there are infinite universes. In that universe, the two kids that she pulled from her universe to make her kids are her kids. I don't believe that those are her kids in every universe. I think she searched and found the very specific universes where those are her kids. And those kids do exist in her real universe that we're living in. And when she sent everything out and got anger and everything up, I do think a part of her was attached to those kids who were real life in the world at that moment. And Wiccan was just a guy who had a mom and a dad, Kaplan's, and then something hit him, and then he started to get his powers and learn a little bit, and then that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting.
So you're thinking that the kid did exist
in her
but
universe.
In her universe, but
because she didn't make anything up.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying that like the actual physical representation of the kid existed, but it wasn't
Wiccan was it. Billy Kaplan was in this universe already.
Yes, but when she pulled in all that grief and it ended and stuff, he retained the knowledge that he received by being the Scarlet Witch's son.
I think is it conversion? Is that one too?
Yes,
sure. I think it's a conversion issue. That Billy Kaplan in our universe was not Wanda's kid. Billy Kaplan in the universe in WandaVision that she takes over was. Now, I get confused going down that theory because for me, there's no other way this happens, because even if you think about the kids, she was pregnant in one episode and had the kids, and then they kept getting older and older.
Oh, I know. I did the deep dive when I was doing research on like what my top 5 shows were, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm remembering now. Like in the second episode she's pregnant. In the third episode it's like 4 months,
Yeah,
and then
dude.
6 months, and then she has the kids, and then the fourth episode they're 5 years old and then become 10 years old, and then it's the Halloween special where they're 10 and they're just 10 for the rest of the series, and it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into your episodes. 4, 5. I have 7 written down that I'm going to pick a 5 of order of just looking at them now.
Okay,
So
so
let's talk best episodes in Marvel history.
yeah, so full disclosure on mine. So like
Yeah.
from what I did not pick any of the special presentations because if I did, Werewolf by Night would easily be top 3
Oh,
on mine.
100%. Yeah, no. Episodical
Easily,
television. Yeah.
easily would be top 3 on mine. Not even close. So I went off with like the Disney Plus era. So I started with WandaVision and then went down. And
Okay.
then that's how I did it. Okay.
But
And
you
by
started
the
at
way,
WandaVision, but are these in order of what you think is the best one?
no,
or-
no, no. I picked my 5 and then I actually picked which ones are like my top 5.
Cool.
So, and I also want to point out this is where the conversation got brought up earlier about how like I thought that moment from last night was a top 5 Marvel moment,
That's fair.
but it's not. But I don't think the episode is a top 5 episode, which
Sure.
is I think why I'm gonna get this list and how it's gonna work. So number 5 for me, Moon Knight episode 5, Asylum.
Okay.
It is the episode where Mark and Steven are together, and the hippo goddess like explains to them that like this is the afterlife, and they in order to progress further, the scales have to be in balance with their hearts, and they're currently not. So they
Yep.
go down the deep dive of how Mark created Steven. Now, episode 4 is when you get the moment of like, oh my god, like every connective tissue is like him in a psych ward and stuff, which would have been a cool reveal.
Yeah.
But the episode to me, when they're going down like the river and he's trying to balance himself out and find goodness in his heart again, I think that's my number 5.
Cool.
Number 4.
Let's do 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what's your 5?
Darkest Night, Agatha all along. I
Ooh,
have that at
okay.
5. I love it. And Greg, I love it for a couple reasons. One, it is probably going to be the scariest of the episodes. It has
Okay.
every inch of this show that I want. It shows Audrey Plaza's character as a true kind of witch with the cackle, which was an honor. It showed the Salem 7 and kind of sped it up. It showed an actual death of one of the people in the coven, which is terrifying, and I don't know how that'll work.
Okay.
It announced Billy. Like, it to me, this episode had everything. And I'll admit, yeah, could I have used 10 more minutes? Sure. But this episode, to me, had every inch of me thinking to myself, oh my god, I'm so glad I told people they had to watch this show.
Okay, that's fair. I also love in the episode title too, like "Awakened by Power."
Yes.
That was a good tease.
Agreed.
It was
Yeah.
a very good tease. Yeah. All right. My number 4, WandaVision episode 1, filmed before a live studio audience.
Okay. I have that
So-
on my 7.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it's number 4 because first off, it was the very first Disney Plus Marvel property that was made, so that holds a special place. I love how much detail they went into like making this like a true 50s style comedy with like the black and
Yeah,
white
I agree.
and the tropes of everything and all that. And but then like as you're watching it, like the first half is such a wink and nod to like the classic comedies, but then as you're watching it, and then it gets like scary when when like the Vision's boss is choking and like Mrs. Hart is like telling her to stop and stuff, and Wanda gets like very pale and all that, and you realize something is wrong in this, and the mystery kind of begins about what's going on, and then like the reveal at the end where someone's watching it on TV and it's like, oh my god, I want to watch more. It's like that's the very first Marvel property on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and it gets you hooked for what is next to come. And I just think it holds a special place for how much love and affection they did as like an era to the 50s comedies.
I could put every episode of WandaVision on this list, and I agree with you
Fair.
that to me was such like a what the absolute shit is going on, but this is awesome. So I love that pick. I did not make my top. It would be 6 probably. I'm having a really tough time here with not putting in a couple episodes. We can discuss that after. My 4 is Asylum, Moon Knight. I think that I'm with you.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
higher. Like that Moon Knight to me was so rewarding. It was the first Marvel entity I had no idea what it was. It was really the first Marvel entity where like I had to do so much research after because I had never heard of this guy. And I thought Asylum was so beautiful. The ancestral plane conversations. Yeah, I was all in.
Which you are addicted to, by the way, now in every
Unfortunately.
Marvel talk we have. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Uh-huh.
All right, you're up.
My number 3, what if season 1, episode 2, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord?
Okay, so I'll admit I have 2 what if episodes on here, and they did not make the top 5, and I'll explain it. But
Okay.
what if to me is now, if we are adding that in, probably the best show. Like if what if is added into this conversation, every episode should be in this conversation.
Yes, every episode is unique in its own, and I can make a case for like the Killmonger episode where he becomes Black Panther. I can make a case for like season 1 finale with the Guardians of the Multiverse. I can make a case for the Kahori episode. I can make a case for the finale of season 2 where what's Supreme Strange Supreme like tries to take over the multiverse for the sake of just reviving like just in case of reviving his love or anything like that. I could even throw in like fuck the Christmas episode where Happy becomes Hulk. Like it's great, but there is not one episode that was so good that Marvel seriously considered making an entire series around it, which says a lot right there. I love the interaction of T'Challa with Yondu, which was phenomenal. The end where T'Challa comes home and the happiness of like one big happy family with Josh Brolin's Thanos there, by the way, as just like essentially like a Drax replacement, which is hilarious to me. And by the way, and also Nebula being his love in it as well is also great to me. Like I loved how many good actors there were in that episode too, which made it even better. So to me, it is like the top tier what if episode, and I had to put it in the list.
For 3 for me is previously on WandaVision. This is the episode where she remembers going into Sword and creating Vision and the freak out, and where she meets Agatha Harkness, and Agatha says you're doing chaos magic. For me, I don't know if necessarily this was like quote unquote the most entertaining. Like there were episodes of WandaVision that were pure like funny, who knows what's happening and la la la. Previously on for me was the episode where you're like, oh, this all makes sense now. She's kind of the bad guy. And for me, like that was a huge setting tone and a beautiful episode, and I enjoyed it.
I consider that for my list as well. Like it's that and Asylum are kind of in the same boat for me, where it's like you find out a lot about the character during that stuff. Like you already knew about Wanda, but now you're finally understanding like why this is happening. So like I get that. Like it's up there for me. Cool. Number two. And this is hard because like I could easily also put a lot of episodes from this series on this list, but I had to pare it down. Number 2 for me, season 1, episode 6 of Loki, For All Time, Always.
Okay. Say the name of it again.
For All Time,
For All Time, Always. Thank you. Okay, cool. Walk me through why that one.
Number 2, so that's my number 2. The reason I do it is because first off, the reveal of He Who Remains, like say what you want about the actor, we're not going to get into that, but
love him as an actor.
But like but them getting past like the monster and then making it to the end of time, Miss Minutes being creepy as hell at the end, and then you are stuck in, you meet He Who Remains, walks you through the multiverse, walks you through this like just story about everything that's going on. Like Loki is given like the chance to have everything he wants, and he passes on it. Him and Sylvie are at odds trying to decide what should occur. And there's just this great like interaction between the 3 of them that like occurs from this that is just memorable. And then of course it ends up with He Who Remains dying, and then Loki getting sent back, and then it turns out like he's not in the right time. It's to me it was just such a great episode.
What episode number is that?
It was 6.
Okay.
There was only 6 episodes in each season of Loki. Yeah.
So my number 2 is the episode before that, Journey into Mystery.
Ooh, okay.
I love that area where, time and space don't matter, and there's other characters. I love meeting the Loki variants. I love seeing
Yes, that was cool
President
too.
Loki. I felt really rewarded in all of that, and I loved Eliath. It was so cool. I agree with you that the episode after that brought it all together was beautiful and amazing and tied up. This episode for me was one of the most fun episodes that I'd seen because like Loki, betraying a Loki with all the other Lokis and Gator Loki.
Gator Loki.
It was setting the stones for Deadpool Wolverine in all the Deadpool.
Yes.
So
And you weren't even expecting it too,
No.
which made it even better.
what
But
what is your number one Marvel TV show episode ever?
so for the reason that for all time always is not my number one is because season 2 topped it with Glorious Purpose. The finale of season 2, Glorious Purpose, where Loki finally embraces his true role of being the god of stories and takes the time streams and creates the tree of stories as well, where he will remain for all times as always. It is the perfect ending to a character arc that we deserved as fans of Marvel, who we loved so much, and I thought it was a beautiful ending altogether. And also and I thought it was hilarious too how he's just like studying quantum physics like for an infinite number of times so he can be perfect at being able to get that right, which is even better.
I still have my reservations that Loki watching a movie would make him that good of a person in the beginning, like in the early season 1 episode like 1 of Loki, where they're just like, here's your life, and he's like, okay, I'm ready to be everybody's favorite Loki again. That being said, that is Glorious Purpose is the number one episode in Marvel TV history. I think that is, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I've
so
back-to-back
we were
Loki
closer than I
episodes,
expected. We were a lot closer than I expected.
The-
I also seriously thought about I don't remember what episode 5 was in season 2, the one before that, where he's just like, he finally admits that he wants to be with his friends. Like that, I felt was just like a great character defining moment for him too, where he just like realizes like how lonely he is and
Yep.
how much he just loves having people around him. Like
Agreed.
I thought that was phenomenal.
The what if episodes I had were what if Ultron won, and what if Doctor Strange lost his head.
Oh, lost his heart.
Heart, excuse me. Wow, I wrote head. Yeah, heart.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's also like in the same realm that I was going with.
Yeah.
Aside from what if, were there any other episodes that you thought of? Because like I loved Miss Marvel so much, but it was hard for
None
me
of them
to
were
put
making this. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
it was
like
great.
I loved the 2 episode. I love the episode 4 and 5 when they're in Karachi the whole time,
Yep.
but like I love it more for the surrounding than
Agreed.
I do like the actual story. I thought that was really good.
I liked the Feige episode, the Kevin episode of She-Hulk, but that was never making this out of respect.
I thought about putting the Daredevil episode in as an honorable
Yep.
mention just because I love that character dynamic. I thought,
Moments. I'll give you the Daredevil.
yes,
Yeah.
moments. Yes, that I will go with. But yeah, in terms of episodes, like man, it's just so hard to pick
Agreed.
like the quality of some of these episodes on here. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Greg, that's been an hour long, bud. I'm gonna run out and see Ping in town, and you're gonna go to bed early, and we're having a good night. So,
Yes, sir.
always good talking. I'm excited for next week's episode, so we can see what the fuck happens on Agatha and go from there.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm getting used to with this, and I'm all for it. I cannot wait to watch the new Rockstars breakdown and see what I missed during this. So
That's good.
let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys next time. Everyone have a wonderful week.
Bye.